Hello crafty friends, it's Alicia here with a project for Tailored Expressions. In today's video, I'll be showing you how you can take your cards from season to season by simply changing the background. Featured on today's cards is the Timeless Blooms Create and Quad and Together in Type Stamp and Die combo. I will also be using the Weathered Words background stamp, and to help me get good impressions on all of my stamping, I got out the exclusive TE Teal Misty and Just Press tool. I will be die cutting with Circle Stacklets, A2 Layer Stacklets, Label Stacklets 15, Arch Stacklets, and All Planned Out number 2. For cardstocks, I'm using cilantro, mulled wine, raspberry sorbet, and sugar cube. For specialty papers, I got out Woodgrain cardstock in white and Kraft, as well as some TE Vellum. To add sparkle on the cards, I chose gold glitter drops and rose glitter drops. I'll be doing some stamping and ink blending with raspberry sorbet, jujube, mulled wine, pea pod, and cilantro, and I also got out some coordinating blender and bitty blender brushes. I also got out some tools and accessories to do a little splattering. And I'll be using a variety of adhesives to hold everything together. Let's get crafty! When I first saw the Timeless Blooms Create and Quad, I knew that I wanted to find a way to make it timeless or be able to use them throughout the year. So today I'm going to show you that just by stenciling onto different colored backgrounds, you can make these cards for different seasons. The Woodgrain cardstock is perfect for this since the Create and Quad stencils are full 8.5 by 11s and the Woodgrain cardstock is half sheets. I can put one on the top and one on bottom, and then I'll have two cards that are sort of for spring and then two cards that are perfect for fall. Once my Woodgrain cardstock was temporarily tacked in place, I set up stencil number 3, and I will be ink blending this one with raspberry sorbet, which is the lightest ink I chose for the flowers today. Now for the top one, the more springy version, I did try to do a lighter hand, but when I went down to the Kraft version, because the background is darker, I did add a little extra ink to each of the openings. From time to time, I would pause to lift up the stencil to make sure that I could see the ink and that I thought it looked nice. Once that was done, I placed down the second stencil, which this is number 4 from the set, and I used the same process with Jujube, inking it up, using my counterclockwise and clockwise motions, and checking it every once in a while to make sure that there was a good coverage of the ink and that it was a little bit darker than the previous color. I finished the flower petals by using mulled wine on stencil number 5, and then for the remaining 2 stencils, I used pea pod on stencil number 1, which is more of the leaves, and then for the stems, I used cilantro. Now when you stencil onto Woodgrain cardstock, it's not going to look perfect. The texture of the cardstock shows through the ink blending. I really like how this gives kind of a juxtaposition with the soft flowers kind of having that rough textured background. And for the fall cards, the Woodgrain is perfect. Here's a look at each half after they have been ink blended, and now at this time you could cut off a 1/4 inch from the outer edges and then cut each piece in half, but I'm actually going to be using some dies. For my spring set, I will be using Label Stacklets number 15 on the left side, and I chose the second from largest, and for the one over on the right, I'm using the Arch Stacklets die set and also the second from the largest. When you go to die cut these pieces, you will have some wiggle room to move the die around to capture the area of the stenciling that you like best. For the fall cards, I am using All Planned Out number 2 on the left card, and I will be using the main die with kind of the color blocking grid, and you can turn this around and then do the same thing, move it around to the area you want on the final card. For the right side of this piece, I will be using the 3rd largest rectangle from the A2 Layer Stacklets die set. While I was off camera cutting these, I did get out a piece of cilantro cardstock and I used a scallop rectangle from All Planned Out 2 to die cut one of those pieces. To add a little more texture and interest to the stenciled pieces, I'm going to be doing some splattering. For my spring cards, I'm using Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White, and I put a little bit onto the mini glass board. Now, after I add a drop or two of water to that, I can mix it up with my brush and then start splattering. You might notice I do have this in a box with a lid to try to protect the rest of my work surface, but luckily I am working on the glass board, which is really easy to clean up. For my fall versions, I thought the white might be a little too bright, so I'm going to tone that down a little bit by adding 3 drops of buttercream frosting re-inker to what I already have on my mini glass board. Now at this time you might need to add more water, but luckily I could just mix that in there well and do my splattering. And it is a little hard to tell on camera, but it's just a little bit toned down, more of a fall look for those splatters. While those dry, I'm going to prep the card bases and the backgrounds for one of the fall cards. For the spring, I'm using raspberry sorbet, and for the fall, I'm using cilantro. I'm going to be stamping onto the card bases, so to hold those closed while I do that, I did put some tape runner on the inside because that is very easily removed later. I will be doing some tone-on-tone stamping onto those pieces using the Weathered Words background stamp. I just love the texture on this. And I'm going to start with raspberry sorbet ink on those raspberry card bases. Once again, I'm just going to temporarily tack those down with tape runner, and then I place my background stamp face down on top of that, just making sure that it would cover that entire card base. When that was in place, I inked it up with the raspberry sorbet, and I used the Just Press tool to help me get a nice impression. Now, I don't know about you, but every time I use raspberry sorbet cardstock or ink, I have to sing it in my head like Prince used to sing Raspberry Beret. Let me know if it's the same for you down in that comment section below. Before moving on to the cilantro pieces, I did take some time to clean and dry that background stamp. Using the same process, I added the Weathered Words background in cilantro ink to the scalloped rectangle and to the cilantro card base. For my sentiments today, I'm using the Together in Type Stamp and Die combo. I can just stamp this once and then have multiple sentiments. Although I could stamp that once and get plenty of sentiments for today's cards, I'm actually going to stamp it twice, so I have some in Jujube and some in cilantro, so I have sentiments for each of those seasonal backgrounds. After I stamped my cilantro sentiments, I rotated around my piece of sugar cube cardstock, and then I cleaned the stamp and dried it well before using the Jujube ink. While I work on getting that stamped, I would love for you to let me know what color combination you're going to use on your Timeless Blooms Create and Quad. Leave those down in that comment section below. I took this piece off camera with a coordinating die set, and using the alignment squares on the stamped image and in the die, I got those all cut out. Also, while I was off camera, I cut a copy out of raspberry sorbet and out of cilantro to have some shadows. Now, if you wanted to make a nice set of cards for a friend, family member, coworker, you could go ahead and put these all together, put some foam tape on the back, but don't pull the release paper, and that way, when the recipient has an occasion to send for, they could choose which sentiment to use on the card front. I am going to go ahead and add some directly to my cards today. So I selected 4, 2 in each color, and then added the shadows to the back. This is easy to do. I just put a little liquid glue on the front of the cardstock copy, and then I take the coordinating sentiment and place that up and to the left just a little bit. Off camera, I added the sentiments to the card fronts with some foam tape, and then I got each of those pieces added to the card bases. You will notice here that there's something a little bit different about each one, and although you could definitely send these out as is, I think every season is perfect for a little sparkle. So to do that, I use gold glitter drops and rose glitter drops to add a little shine, and here are some close-up looks at the finished cards. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch today's video. If you enjoyed the process, a thumbs up is appreciated. And if you're not already a subscriber, we do hope you'll click on the button below so you're the first to know about our latest videos. To find out more about the products I used today, you can check out the links in the description box below or visit the Tailored Expressions online store at tailoredexpressions.com.